We all have grown believing things that we have been told to believe, things that we have never questioned. But what would happen if we discovered that the time we all believe in is wrong? What if the way we perceive time depends on the part of the planet that we're standing? As we all know, the Earth is divided vertically in time zones. The distance between every line of time zone represents our 1 hour of time. So, the time the Earth takes to go from one time zone to the next is 1 hour. The time we normally use is measuring the rotation degrees of the Earth. We all have learned this in elementary school. But using your common sense, if you look at the length of an hour on the equator and compare it with the distance you have in any other latitudes that are closer to the poles, like the Tropic of Cancer, you'll notice that the distance between every hour might be shorter as you get closer to the poles. And what does it mean? It means that an hour near the equator might actually be longer than an hour closer to the poles. Looks like the people that live closer to the equator have more time in their hours than the people living closer to the poles. If you draw a triangle to take a better look at this distance, you'll realize that as you get closer to the poles, the hours may get shorter and shorter. Yes, if we would measure the time in distance instead of measuring it in degrees, then we'll see that the hours in the middle of the Earth are longer than the hours closer to the poles. We know in the equator, the Earth has 24,900 miles in circumference. If you divide this distance between the 24 time zones, you'll find that every hour is 1,037.5 miles long. In the Arctic Circle, the circumference of the Earth is around 10,975 miles long. This means that every hour has 457.2 miles. When we look at the percentage of difference using the equator hour as 100%, we discover that an hour in the Arctic Circle is just 44% of an equator hour. So, all the people living in countries like Alaska, north of Canada, Greenland, north of Russia, and Siberia are living hours that are really 26.4 minutes long. The time measured in distance is easy to understand because it's based in common sense, but common sense is very difficult to prove. So we decided to probe it with a very simple experiment, using the speed which is measured with the distance you travel over certain time. We will just need to travel to some place close to the equator and drive a certain distance at a constant speed, and see how long it takes us to travel that distance. Then we'll need to do the same in the north of the planet and see how long it'll take us to travel the same distance. If the distance is the same, then the time should be the same, right? If the time we use is right, then 100 miles per hour should be 100 miles per hour everywhere. So, after analyzing the roads closer to the equator, we decided to go to Mexico to do the experiment on the road, traveling from Escárcega to Chetumal. But we didn't realize until we got there that going through that road without having to stop was totally impossible. There are bumpers, army checkpoints, traffic, and many other challenges. There's not a freeway to go from one place to another. That's why now we need your help. We'll use your donations to travel from San Antonio to Jacksonville and from Calgary to Winnipeg and get the proof we need. If we gather more than what we need, we'll be able to do this experiment in a small plane instead of a car, and we'll be able to do it in Ecuador and Alaska instead. Don't you want to find out if we truly have shorter hours where we live?